It's funny because usually when we look at the world around us, we really want things to run completely smoothly.
Right, yeah, like a perfectly engineered machine.
Exactly. You oil the gears, you tighten the bolts, and you expect like zero resistance. I mean, if your car engine has friction, you're pulling over.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
mean, something is breaking down. That just like things categorized and clean and, well, frictionless.
We do.
Yeah.
And we apply that identical logic to our lives too.
Yeah.
I mean, we constantly try to eliminate tension to achieve this mythical, perfectly smooth existence.
Yeah, the dream.
Right. But the moment you step into the world of ancient human history, that mechanical mindset completely falls apart.
It really does.
Yeah. We find ourselves looking at a cosmological landscape where friction isn't the enemy at all. It's actually the engine itself.
Which is just such a wild paradigm shift. Because, okay, let's unpack this for today's deep dive. What if I told you that every single mythology and religion and culture throughout human history wasn't trying to eliminate that friction, but was actually heavily engineered to harness it?
Yes, that is the core of it.
So today, our mission is to crack open this massive comparative study of 23 cultures to really understand this framework. The researchers call it the theology of the interface.
It's a fascinating study.
It really is. And we're going to dive deep into just the first part of this research today, exploring the primal cradles of Earth and nature.
Right, and to really grasp this, we need to look at the structural blueprint beneath the sort of surface-level stories of these ancient cultures.
Okay, so lay that out for us.
Well, the research maps this out using a formal ontological equation. It proposes that existence relies on three variables, X, Y, and T.
Okay, X, Y, and T.
Yeah. So first we have X. That represents order. Think of like structure, linear time, human survival,
I
measurement.
have the laws of civilization.
Exactly. The reliable, predictable world, the gears working smoothly, like you said earlier.
Okay, and then there's the opposite force.
That is why. Chaos.
Chaos.
Yeah, the unseen energy, the raw, infinite power, wild nature, the spiritual dimension. It is essentially everything that resists structure and defies measurement.
So it's everything X is not.
Exactly. Now, if X and Y just crash into each other, you get annihilation. I mean, order tries to crush chaos, or chaos completely overwhelms order.
So they need a buffer.
They need an interface.
Ah, okay.
And that is our T variable. The interface is the specific reconciling mechanism. It could be a physical place, a person, a set of laws, or a ritual, but it sits directly between order and chaos.
Got it.
And the thesis of this study is that existence only happens because of the active friction between X and Y managed by that T.
Okay, so that friction isn't a malfunction?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's the spark that literally powers the universe.
Okay, so let's unpack this by looking at how early humans actually lived this equation. Because we're starting with Aboriginal Australians, where the interface isn't, some abstract theological concept. It's literally the dirt under your feet.
Yeah, so let's map the variables to their worldview. Their X, the order, is the human clock.
Okay.
It's physical survival, finding food, the linear passing of time from sunrise to sunset.
Right, but I'm looking at my notes here, and I'm honestly a bit confused by how they define the Y variable, the chaos.
The dream time.
Yeah, the source material calls it the dream time or Chakirpa. And my Western brain immediately wants to put that in the past tense, like, once upon a time, in the dream time.
Right, yeah.
But the research is incredibly stubborn about not doing that.
It is, and that's actually the most common hurdle when studying this culture.
Yeah.
Because the dream time is absolutely not a past historical event.
It's not an origin story.
No, it didn't happen millions of years ago. And just conclude, the dream time is a continuous, permanent, parallel dimension.
Wow, okay.
It resides behind physical reality right now, constantly feeding and sustaining it.
Okay, so what does this all mean mechanically? Because I'm trying to picture this. Is the dream time essentially like a massive computer server that's constantly running in the background?
Okay, yeah.
And then the physical world, like the rocks, the trees, our bodies, is that just the front-end user interface?
That is actually a phenomenal way to visualize it. Yes. The server holds the raw, infinite code and energy of the universe.
Okay.
And the physical world is the front-end application being actively rendered in real time.
That is so cool.
And the most important part of this system is that humanity's role is not to just sit back and watch the screen. Humans are the network operators.
Which completely changes the role of humanity from what we're used to in Western traditions.
Practically.
I mean, there's no distant sovereign god in the sky pulling the strings. The land itself holds the authority. But how did the land get that code in the first place?
Well, the research mentions these totemic ancestors.
Right, entities like the rainbow serpent or the kangaroo man?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it says they sang the landscape into existence. Now think about the mechanics of sound.
Sound is vibration.
Yes, it physically alters the space it moves through. So as these totemic ancestors moved across the barren earth, their physical interaction with the ground literally vibrated the world into being.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so every mountain, water source, and stone has an original song that defines its character and physically holds its form together.
Which brings us to the actual interface, the T variable, because the Aboriginal people use something called song lines.
Right, so let's look at how they operate. A song line is a geographical path across the land.
Oh,
But by physically walking the exact paths of those ancient ancestors and precisely singing those sacred songs, an individual is connecting their passing linear human time.
they're X.
Exactly, their X. They connect that with the infinite eternal dream time, their Y.
You know, I had a massive aha moment reading this part, because when an Aboriginal person walks a song line and sings a totemic song, they are not praying.
No, they're not.
They aren't looking up at the sky asking an external god for a favor, like rain or good health or whatever.
It is absolutely not a petition. It is an active maintenance operation.
They're reactivating creation.
Yes.
They're serving as the living interface, constantly welding their passing life to that eternal dimension to prevent the world from just dissolving back into chaos.
Because if they stop singing,
The server crashes.
exactly, the physical rendering of reality begins to fragment.
Wow.
They manage the cosmic friction by physically interacting with the geography. But, the Aboriginal system relies on a relatively passive physical landscape to act as the interface.
Right, right.
As human populations migrated, they encountered environments where the geography wasn't just passive dirt and stone.
Yeah, what happens when humans move into brutal environments, like where survival requires hunting dangerous predators or surviving these catastrophic winters?
It changes everything.
The geography isn't just a passive map anymore. The forces within it are actively trying to kill you. So the interface has to shift from a passive grounding wire into an active negotiation.
Yes, that takes us straight into the world of indigenous shamanism and tribal traditions. Here, we see a total absence of ontological barriers. In our modern world, we isolate the sacred.
Yeah, we put a church or a temple on one street corner and the rest of the city is just mundane.
Exactly. But in these tribal traditions, the temple is the forest.
The temple is the river.
Animism completely unifies the landscape. Every single rock, river, storm, and animal possesses a conscious entity and an inner spirit.
Okay, so let's define our variables for the system. Our X, the order, is the tangible human world. The tribal space, the act of hunting, the physical and social laws that keep the community actually functioning.
And the Y, the chaos, is the unseen dimension of those countless spirits, ancestors, and subtle wild energies hidden just out of view.
And T, the interface, is nature itself. But wait, if every single element in nature has a conscious spirit and a desire, how do you even build a fire without offending the wood?
It's a great question.
I mean, if the bear has a spirit, isn't killing it a massive violation of the balance?
Well, you've hit on the exact pressure point of this system. It introduces an immense level of complexity. Because when the world is alive, survival is no longer a matter of simple biology or physical dominance.
It becomes politics.
Thoroughly. It is pure diplomacy. Look at the Inuit hunting traditions, for example.
Okay.
A hunter cannot simply overpower an animal. The animal is perceived as having a strong individual soul that must be respected.
So the shaman isn't just a spiritual leader giving sermons. Are they essentially functioning as a cosmic hostage negotiator?
The diplomat is perhaps the best term, yeah.
The diplomat, okay.
They are brokering treaties so the tribe can survive another season. The hunters have to follow these highly detailed, rigid protocols of respect, and if they follow the diplomatic treaty, the animal's soul explicitly consents to the hunt. And more importantly, it consents to return and be given to the tribe again in the future.
That is so fascinating. It's an ongoing diplomatic relationship with the Y variable.
Exactly.
And if you disrespect that soul, the treaty is broken, the animals withdraw, and the tribe just starves.
Yes.
So it's entirely about local management. The study points out that in many of these traditions, there actually is a supreme creator god.
Right, like Olodumare in the Yoruba tradition in West Africa.
Yeah, but they are incredibly distant.
Well, a supreme god might hold the overarching architecture of the universe, but they aren't managing your daily harvest.
Right, they aren't micromanaging.
No, daily survival requires dealing with intermediate forces. So in the Yoruba tradition, those are the orishas.
Okay.
If you want to survive a storm, you deal with Shango, the force of lightning. If you need water, you negotiate with Oshun, the force of the river. You constantly have to manage the local friction.
And what's really fascinating here is the fundamental philosophical goal. Like, nobody in these traditions is trying to achieve metaphysical redemption.
No,
They aren't trying to escape the material world to reach some distant, perfect heaven.
not at all. The systemic goal is absolute harmonious balance right here and right now.
And because that balance is constantly teetering, you need the shaman, the certified human navigator.
Exactly.
But how exactly does the shaman access this hidden layer of reality to actually negotiate?
Well, through immense psychological and physiological discipline, the shaman acts as the operator by literally detaching their soul via a trance state.
Wow.
Yeah, they often use repetitive drum beats that alter brainwave frequencies, and they cross the boundaries between the physical world and the unseen upper and lower realms.
So they're physically and mentally crossing over?
Yes, they diagnose spiritual sicknesses, retrieve lost knowledge, and basically bring back system updates to keep the physical and spiritual world from violently clashing.
Okay, so we've seen spirits residing in every single rock and tree. But as human societies continue to evolve, we see another shift, right?
We do.
Humanity starts mapping out exactly where these unseen forces live. So instead of spirits being everywhere all at once, cultures begin to localize the unseen world to a specific parallel realm.
Yes, creating literal geographical doorways between the worlds.
Which brings us to the Celts and the Druids, where the interface becomes incredibly spatial.
It really does. The Celtic universe is architecturally stunning because it is built entirely on the concept of absolute adjacency.
The Venn diagram of reality.
Okay, so you have the visible, physical world, and pressed right up against it, separated by just the thinnest of veils, is Anon, the other world.
Okay, so mapping our equation to the Celts, X, the order, is the physical material world. It's the local tribal order, the kinship, and the cyclical rhythm of the agricultural seasons.
Perfect. And why the chaos is Anon. It is a parallel dimension inhabited by magical beings, chaotic spirits, and immense unpredictable power.
Right, it totally defies human logic.
It does. Which makes the T variable, the interface, the threshold itself.
The threshold.
Yes, it's the literal border where these two worlds touch.
Aye.
And to manage the massive energy transfer across that border, the Celts had their gods, the Tuatha De Danann.
No, right.
These gods function almost like specialized nodes regulating the flow of chaos into order. Take the Dagda, for instance.
Okay.
He possesses an unending cauldron. Now, mechanically, a cauldron takes raw, chaotic ingredients and transforms them into sustaining nourishment.
Oh, interesting.
But he manages the infinite raw material of the other world.
And then you have Morrigan, right? The goddess of fate and battle.
Yes.
The source describes her as having 3 faces, and I assume that's not just to, look intimidating. It seems like a specific mechanism for managing time or destiny.
It absolutely is.
Hmm.
Because managing fate isn't linear. The 3 faces allow her to perceive the past, the present, and the future simultaneously. Yeah, she sees the tangled threads of chaotic possibility, and she weaves them into the strict order of human destiny, which often meant determining who lives and dies on the battlefield.
And then there's Luf, the god of light and technological invention, which is just such an interesting combination, like light and tech.
Right.
But I guess it makes sense. I mean, an invention like a spear or a wheel is pure human order being used to pierce and conquer the wild chaos of nature.
Exactly.
But for the everyday Celt, this threshold wasn't just mythology, right? It was a physical reality they lived right next to. They had this idea, those sacred fairy mounds scattered across the landscape.
Yeah, those mounds were permanent physical openings,
Mm-hmm.
literal doorways to the underworld. And the Celts recognized temporal doorways as well.
Calendar coordinates.
Exactly. Specific times where the border between order and chaos grew dangerously thin.
Like festivals.
Yeah.
Beltane in the spring and Samhain in the autumn.
Yeah.
And Samhain occurs on November 1st, which is the historical origin of our modern Halloween.
Right. And during Samhain, the gates to Anne open completely. The boundary effectively just disappears.
Wow.
This allows for a massive data transfer between the living and the dead. It's a violent rebalancing of cosmic energy to prepare the Earth for the freezing order of winter.
I have to push back on this, though. If the other world is full of chaotic, dangerous beings, why didn't the Celts just build spiritual walls? Like, why not try to defeat or shut out the chaos? It sounds like they just chose to live in the doorway of a dangerous party without ever trying to close the door.
It does sound like that. But to the Celtic mind, closing the door meant death.
Really?
Yeah, they had no desire to resolve or eliminate the friction. They understood that the raw power pouring out of Anne was the source of fertility, inspiration, and life itself.
Oh, I see.
The goal wasn't to conquer the chaos. The goal was to live directly on the threshold, respect its immense danger, and just surf the energy it provided.
Surf the energy. I love that.
Yeah.
But surfing that threshold requires some serious security clearance. Like, the average farmer isn't equipped to negotiate with the forces of Anne.
Definitely not.
That's where the druids step in, right?
Yes, the Druids were the ultimate living interface. They were the philosophers, the healers, the judges, and the scientists of the Celtic world.
Right.
They possessed a staggering amount of astronomical, legal, and theological data.
And the most incredible detail from the research, for me at least, is how they stored that data. They intentionally forbade the writing down of their knowledge.
Yes, they did.
Everything was strictly oral transmission. But why? I mean, if you have complex scientific data, wouldn't you want to back it up on paper?
Well, because writing fixes things in place,
Yeah.
makes them static and rigid. By keeping the knowledge entirely oral, it remained alive, adaptable, and deeply embedded in the living tissue of the human mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the knowledge could breathe and shift as the environment shifted.
So it made the living, breathing druid the sole interface.
Mhm.
They were the only ones holding the active access credentials to safely cross that threshold. If you didn't have a druid, your tribe just couldn't access the system safely, and the friction would tear you apart.
It was a highly sophisticated way of ensuring that the management of cosmic friction remained exclusively in the hands of those deeply trained to handle it. The volatile overlap of X and Y.
When we pull back and look at the Aboriginals, the shamans, and the druids, I mean, the through line is just profound.
It really is. Synthesizing this journey through the primal cradles, we uncover a fundamental truth about human design.
Yeah.
Our earliest ancestors did not look up and see the sacred as something distant, sterile, and isolated in the sky. They saw the friction between order and chaos right in front of them.
In the soil, in the turning of the seasons, in the eyes of the predators they negotiated with.
Exactly. They recognized that tension wasn't a flaw in the universe, it was the lifeblood of it.
An engine.
The engine. And they used their physical environment, the land, the animals, the seasonal doorways, as the interface to manage that tension.
Yeah.
They physically participated in the maintenance of reality.
Which brings us right to you, the modern listener. Because think about the architecture of your own life.
Yeah.
You constantly balance the rigid order of your calendar, your responsibilities, the logical structure of your day. That's your X.
Right.
And you are constantly balancing that against the unpredictable chaos of the world, sudden emergencies, unexpected encounters, and your own internal, wild, emotional energy. That's your why.
We all experience that friction daily.
We really do. And often, our first instinct is to suppress the why. We want to smooth it all away and just stick to the schedule, make it frictionless.
But maybe these primal cultures are offering us a different blueprint,
Yeah.
a way to find our own threshold, a way to sit with the tension and respect the friction rather than trying to conquer it. Because without the friction, the engine stops. We need the spark.
We absolutely need the spark. And that leaves us with a final thought I want to throw your way, something to really mull over long after this deep dive ends.
Let's hear it.
We saw how the Aboriginals physically walked to the land to keep reality from unraveling. We saw how the Druids strictly forbade writing to keep their knowledge fluid and vital within the human mind. They kept the interface completely bound to active, living human experience. They refused to offshore the cognitive load.
That's a great point. So what happens to our modern interface now that we outsource almost all of our memory and our knowledge to written text, to algorithms, and to digital clouds?
Exactly. If the ancient world relied on the physical friction of humanity to keep the universe turning, are we, by making everything digital, automated, and frictionless, actually losing our direct, living connection to the friction of reality?
It's a huge question.
Think about that the next time you're trying to fix the metaphorical engine of your life. Are you trying to make it run perfectly smooth, or are you willing to navigate the friction? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.